Ava had never questioned who she was. Not once. She knew she liked girls because they pulled her focus without effort. A look, a laugh, a casual touch. Small things that carried a charge she never felt with boys. To her, it was never shameful, never broken. It just was. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Thanks so much for watching. The problem was never Ava. The problem was her parents. They weren't cruel people, not at all. But they were steady, traditional, predictable. Her mom spoke about someday when you have a husband, like it was as inevitable as gravity. Her dad teased her with lines like, "You better not bring home a boy with a motorcycle." It wasn't hostility, but it was a script, one Ava didn't know how to flip without disappointing them. So, she kept quiet. She let them think she was just not dating yet. And when she did date, when Bailey became her everything, she lived her love in stolen hours and careful shadows. Bailey was nothing like Ava. She lived in a trailer park at the edge of town, where the gravel roads kicked up dust and the tin roofs rattled when the wind picked up. Her mother juggled odd jobs, her father was long gone, and money was something that always slipped through her fingers, no matter how hard she tried to hold on to it. Bailey never complained. She laughed about things, even when they were rough. But Ava could see how much weight she carried in her shoulders. They didn't spend time at Bailey's place. Not because Bailey was ashamed, but because she didn't want Ava to feel the cramp of it. The walls too close. The noise of neighbors shouting through paper-thin walls. Instead, it became an unspoken rule. Whenever they wanted to be alone, they went to Ava's house. It was easy. Her parents both worked long hours. Her mother was a planner, her father a creature of routine. Ava knew their schedules down to the minute, and in those stretches of emptiness, the house became theirs. The first time Ava kissed Bailey in her own living room, it was like she had taken back her house, repurposed it. Every framed family photo, every throw blanket her mom had chosen, became part of a world where she finally felt at home. Bailey had been sitting cross-legged on the sofa, frowning over her notes, when Ava couldn't resist anymore. She leaned in and pressed her mouth to Bailey's, soft at first, then with more certainty as Bailey grinned into the kiss. From then on, the house was alive with their closeness. They kissed against the kitchen counter, while something simmered on the stove, only breaking apart when the timer beeped. On the sofa, Bailey leaned into her, and Ava slid an arm around her waist. It was nothing dramatic, but it felt right, solid, easy, like this was exactly where her hand belonged. They made out in Ava's room, door shut, the air heavy with heat and the sound of stifled laughter. Ava loved the kissing, how Bailey always tasted faintly of mint gum, how she'd catch her bottom lip between her teeth when she was about to deepen it. But what she loved even more was the touching, the closeness that wasn't always about sex. She loved resting her head in Bailey's lap while they studied. Loved feeling Bailey's fingers run through her hair, patient and steady. Loved brushing her thumb across Bailey's cheekbone just to watch her smile. It felt natural in a way Ava never had to explain. Bailey wasn't just a girlfriend. She was right. The way slipping into your favorite hoodie feels right. The way certain songs feel like they were written for you. And still, Ava kept it hidden. Bailey never pushed, but Ava could feel her quiet longing. She deserved to be known, to be introduced, to be treated as something real. Ava knew it. And yet, she wasn't ready. One evening, Ava sat with her back against the sofa, while Bailey lay stretched across the carpet, her head pillowed on Ava's thigh. Ava's fingers threaded lazily through Bailey's messy curls, and Bailey's eyes were half closed in contentment. You ever think about telling them? Bailey asked, voice quiet but even. Ava froze for half a beat, then forced her fingers to keep moving. Of course I think about it. And? Ava looked down at her, at the girl who made every second feel lighter. And I panic. Every time. Bailey huffed softly, not angry, just resigned. I'm not saying you have to, it's hard sometimes. Being the secret. Guilt pressed into Ava's chest. She bent down and kissed Bailey's forehead, then lingered there, breathing her in. You're not a secret. You're everything. I don't want them to ruin this. Not yet. Bailey nodded, though her eyes carried a flicker of hurt she tried to hide. She curled closer, letting Ava's hands soothe her. They both knew it couldn't last forever. But for now, they lived in those secret hours, in the warmth of each other's bodies, and the thrill of being wanted so completely. And as Ava kissed Bailey again, pulling her closer until the world disappeared, she told herself she would find the courage someday. Just not today. Ava told herself she wasn't hiding forever, just for now. Her parents' house had always been her safe place, the walls familiar, the corners predictable. But lately, it had also become the place where she and Bailey carved out their secret little world. Every time the garage door closed behind her parents in the morning, Ava felt the house transform into something alive. Every click of the front door lock gave her permission to pull Bailey closer, to kiss her like they had all the time in the world. But even in their little bubble, Ava felt the ticking of a clock. She knew she couldn't keep Bailey invisible forever. Bailey deserved to be more than whispered goodbyes and quick exits out the back door before her parents came home. Still, fear gnawed at her. What if her parents looked at Bailey's hand in hers and saw disappointment? What if they said she wasn't the daughter they thought they raised? What if they cut her off, not from money or stability, but from love? Bailey never demanded answers. She just kept showing up, patient, waiting for Ava to come to her own edge. But Ava could read the moments Bailey went quiet. When she looked around Ava's house and saw the framed family photos, the shiny kitchen, the spacious rooms. When Ava caught the faint flicker in Bailey's eyes, like she knew she'd never measure up in her parents' eyes. Ava worried her parents would see that too. That they wouldn't just judge her for being with a girl, but for being with this girl, and that possibility terrified her. One Saturday afternoon, Ava was sprawled on the couch, Bailey stretched against her, their legs tangled together beneath a blanket. Sunlight spilled through the blinds, striping Bailey's bare arm as Ava absent-mindedly traced the lines of her skin with her fingers. The air smelled faintly of the vanilla candle Ava had lit earlier, something to make the house feel less empty. You know what's funny? Bailey murmured, eyes half shut. What? You're more nervous about your parents than I am, and they're not even my parents. Ava laughed weakly. That's not funny, that's terrifying. Bailey tilted her head, meeting her eyes. I don't care if they like me. I just care if you let me in, all the way in. The words landed heavy, like a stone in Ava's chest. She kissed Bailey instead of answering, her lips urgent, as if she could push the conversation away with heat. Bailey kissed back, her hand cupping Ava's jaw, pulling her closer until the kiss deepened into something that hummed low in Ava's stomach. It always escalated like that with them. One spark, and suddenly Ava was on fire. She loved the sound Bailey made when she laughed into a kiss, loved the way her hands explored, not just with hunger, but with reverence. Ava felt wanted, yes, but more than that, she felt known. They moved together easily, as clothes began to follow. Ava felt Bailey's warm skin against hers, soft but certain, and every inch of her sang with relief. She was exactly where she wanted to be, and she didn't even hear the car in the driveway. The front door creaked open, the familiar jangle of keys hitting the counter, the unmistakable voices of her parents drifting inside, louder than a gunshot in the silence that followed. Ava froze. Her blood turned to ice. Bailey's eyes went wide, her body stiffening against Ava's. "Sweetie," her mom's voice called from the hall. "We decided to come home early. Traffic was awful." The words died when her parents turned into the living room. There they were. Bailey's shirt was on the floor. Ava's bra was hanging from the edge of the sofa. Their bodies were tangled together, skin flushed, hair mussed, eyes wide like cornered animals. The silence was suffocating. Her father's brows rose. Her mother's mouth opened, then closed again. For a single heartbeat, nobody moved. Nobody breathed. And then Ava did the worst thing she could possibly do. She panicked. She scrambled upright, nearly tripping over the edge of the sofa, and snatched a throw pillow from beside her, clutching it against her chest, covering herself as best she could. Her face pale, her expression caught somewhere between mortification and anger. This, it's not, Ava stammered, her voice breaking. Her mom blinked. Her dad rubbed the back of his neck. Neither of them looked furious, but Ava's fear was louder than reality. She couldn't stop her words from spilling out in broken, frantic gasps. "It's not what you think. She's just, oh my God!" Bailey's head snapped toward her, hurt flashing in her eyes. "Ava!" Her voice was sharp, low. "Don't you dare throw me away now!" But Ava couldn't stop spiraling. Her body shook with the weight of the secret, with years of silence crashing down in a single moment she hadn't chosen. Her parents exchanged a look, their confusion plain, their disappointment not about what Ava thought it was. But Ava couldn't see that yet. All she could feel was the collapse of her carefully built walls, the exposure of everything she had worked so hard to control. The house, once their sanctuary, had turned into a stage. And Ava, naked in more ways than one, had no script left to follow. The air in the living room was heavy, like every molecule had been frozen in place. Ava stood clutching the blanket around herself, her pulse hammering so hard she could hear it in her ears. Bailey, beside her, had gone very still, her dark hair tumbling over her shoulders as she hugged her arms across her chest. Her parents just looked at them, not furious, not yelling, not storming off. Just standing there, startled, their expressions caught somewhere between surprise and something Ava couldn't name. But in Ava's panic, silence was the worst punishment. Ava's dad turned his head away quickly, his jaw tight. Not out of anger, but out of a clumsy kind of respect, as if the last thing he wanted to do was make either of them feel even more exposed than they already were. I'm sorry," she blurted, the words sharp and ragged. I wasn't." Her mother raised an eyebrow. "You weren't what, Ava?" Ava's throat burned. Her eyes darted to Bailey, who sat rigid on the couch, her lips pressed tight, her eyes flashing with a mixture of hurt and something colder. Betrayal. "Don't you dare pretend I don't matter," Bailey's look said. But Ava's fear drowned everything else out. "It's nothing," she stammered. "It just happened. It's not serious." The words left her mouth before she realized how deep they cut. And then, to Ava's shock, her mom didn't scold her or fire off questions. Instead, she walked over to the basket next to the sofa, pulled out a folded blanket, and handed it gently to Bailey. "Here," she said, her tone calmer now. "At least cover yourself." Bailey blinked in surprise, then took it with trembling hands, pulling it around her shoulders like armor. Ava's dad finally cleared his throat. "Ava, he said carefully. Why are you acting like you've just confessed to murder? Ava blinked, stunned. Because you saw, she gestured wildly between herself and Bailey. You saw us. And I know you're disappointed. And I know this isn't what you wanted. And her mother's voice cut through, sharper than usual. Stop! Ava froze. Her parents exchanged a glance. It wasn't angry, but it was heavy, like neither of them had the right words yet. Her father's brow furrowed. Her mother's lips pressed together, uncertain. The silence stretched just long enough to make Ava's stomach twist before her mom finally stepped forward, her face softening, but her tone steady. Sweetheart, do you really think we care who you love? That this, she motioned toward Bailey, still sitting stiffly on the couch, is the part that would make us stop loving you? Ava's chest cracked open. She stared, not trusting the words. You don't care? Her dad let out a long sigh, almost exasperated, but not at her, at the situation. Ava, we care that you didn't trust us enough to tell us. That's the only thing that stings. He glanced toward Bailey. Not this, not her. Bailey's eyes flicked up at that, a flicker of hope softening her expression. But Ava couldn't unclench her body yet. You don't mind? Ava whispered. Her mom stepped closer, resting a hand on her daughter's arm. Mind? Ava, you're happy. I haven't seen you glow like this in years. Why would we mind? Tears pricked Ava's eyes, her throat aching. She wanted to believe it, wanted to collapse into her mother's arms and let all the years of silence dissolve. But guilt anchored her in place. Bailey finally spoke, her voice low but edged. You have no idea how scared she's been. Her father turned his gaze on Bailey, gentler now. And you must be Bailey. Bailey swallowed hard, as if bracing for the sting she'd been expecting all along. Yeah, I didn't mean to. This wasn't. Her mother cut her off softly. Honey, you don't need to apologize. For the first time that night, Bailey's defenses cracked. She blinked fast, like she was trying to chase away tears she refused to let fall. But Ava, still trembling, whispered, I thought you'd hate me. I thought you'd hate her. I thought. Her dad shook his head, stepping closer now, his voice firmer. The only thing I hate is that you didn't feel safe with us. That's what hurts, Ava. Not who you're with. Never that. The room shifted. The tension, thick and suffocating minutes ago, began to ease. Ava let out a shaky laugh, but it came out broken, tangled with tears. Bailey finally reached for her hand, hesitant, but Ava clung to it like a lifeline. I'm sorry, Ava said again, her voice small. I should have told you. I didn't want to lose you. Her mother pulled her into a hug, blanket and all. You could never lose us, and you definitely won't lose us over love. She glanced at Bailey. Especially not love that looks like it's good for you. Bailey's face crumpled then, just slightly. She wasn't used to this kind of acceptance. It showed in the way she shifted uncomfortably, as if she didn't know where to put her hands, how to take up space in this room. Her dad must have noticed, because he extended his hand. Bailey, right? You're welcome here, always. Bailey hesitated before shaking it, her grip awkward but firm. Thank you, sir. Don't sir me, he said with a wry smile. It makes me feel old. The smallest laugh escaped Bailey, nervous but real. Ava, still crying, let the blanket fall as she wiped her face. For the first time, she didn't feel like she had to hide. She looked at Bailey, who squeezed her hand, grounding her, and then at her parents, who, against all her nightmares, were simply there. Solid, loving, unmoved. The chaos of being caught half naked on the couch was still humiliating, yes, but it was also the moment that broke her silence wide open, And in that mess, in that panic, she found the truth she'd been too afraid to believe. Her parents didn't care who she loved. They only cared that she did. Later that night, after awkward goodnights and the promise of a real introduction over dinner soon, Ava walked Bailey out to the porch. The night air was cool, the street quiet. Bailey leaned against the railing, still processing. "I thought they'd throw me out," Bailey admitted. "Or worse, throw you out." Ava shook her head, laughing softly through the last of her tears. "I thought the same. Shows what we know." Bailey turned to her, eyes shining. "So, no more hiding?" Ava reached for her, tucking a stray curl behind her ear, letting her hand linger against her cheek. "No more hiding." Bailey smiled then, slow and warm, the kind of smile that made Ava's heart ache in the best way. They kissed under the porch light, not with urgency this time, but with relief. Inside, Ava's parents probably exchanged bewildered looks, probably still a little mortified at their unplanned entrance. But none of that mattered anymore. For the first time, Ava felt whole. Not because she had come out on her own terms, but because even when she hadn't, the love she feared losing had stayed. And now, with Bailey's hand in hers, she knew she would never carry that silence again.